What's up, bikers? Bet you're wondering what episode it is. 176. Today we have the Miltonator, or just I want to say the every time. I like when I was writing the show notes, I just want to say the, but it's just Miltonator. But I feel like we'll call him the Miltonator just because that's what I'm feeling today. Anyways, 176 episodes. Man, we're creeping up to 200. That is rad. I'm super stoked. I swung by the Apple Podcasts a couple of days ago, and guess what, man? Nobody's written a new review in like forever. So I would love it if one of you guys listening that is on the Apple Podcast platform would just go over there and write me a 5-star review. There's not been a single review since like December, and apparently these things really help the algorithm like get the show out there. And someday the YouTube dump truck or the podcast dump truck load of money will show up in my house, and then we'll be like super stoked to be flying people in, all kinds of crazy shit. But until then, no box seats at the Super Bowl for the biker camp. So anyways, I really appreciate all of you that are listening. Otherwise, honestly, it means a lot. And I really enjoy doing the show every day. But guess what? This year, got a couple of sponsors for the show, which is rad. I want to talk about, for those of you guys looking or watching, check this out. This is the Fazari Wasatch Peak, and I have a sponsorship with them this year. However, this bike was not part of that, but I was on there looking at this bike, and it's on sale right now for $8.99. I can't believe it. So I went and bought one just the other day, like a regular old user. And so far the experience has been pretty rad, man. Like they called me after the fact to like, hey, we just want to let you know we got your order. And I've been receiving text messages like on the regular, like, hey, we're putting your bike together, we're getting ready to check it out. So check that out. If you're into possibly getting a new bike, maybe a new hardtail for $900. I think it was like $1,000 out the door with tax and shipping and all that. Just a little over 1,000. So it's a pretty rad deal. Anyways, aside from that, another one of the show sponsors is Tasco MTB. And I don't know if you guys follow my Instagram, but I posted these pictures of these Ridgeline Misfit gloves the other day. So they're black gloves that have basically like a skeleton bone hand printed on it. And then there's another one called the Checkmate, which is basically a yellow and black checkerboard. And I have both of these gloves, and I've actually been mixing them together. They look kind of rad together. If you're interested in picking up some new gloves, swing by Tasco. Use code BIKER, save 20%. Even whenever he has a sale, apparently the biker code like stacks on top of it. So go give it a shot. Anyways, outside of that, whoa, I gotta take this, man. I don't know what I'm doing yet. Outside of that, if you are on YouTube and you haven't hit subscribe, do that. That feels good to see those numbers grow. And that's about that. I do have a brand new Cali helmet that I haven't opened up yet. I was thinking about doing it on this show, but maybe I'll do that next Tuesday on the Backpedal show. So if you guys haven't been checking that out, I've been doing a show weekly that is basically kind of chronicling me trying to lose weight. So swing by on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Anyways, let's bring Milton on and let's talk about bikes. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? How are you?
Dude, living the dream, man, right here. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate the
Yeah,
time today.
man. Dude, how long you been doing YouTube?
You know it. So that's an interesting question, and it's kind of a long answer, but I'll try and keep it short, I guess.
All right.
So I've had a channel. It was a personalized channel, right? For quite some time. I want to say since like 2012 or something like that. But that was mainly just for family,
Mm-hmm.
nothing that I was necessarily taking serious. Um, and then it was 2017, like around October, that I bought a Santa Cruz. It's the V4, I think is the Nomad when it had just come out. And I figured, you know what, let me just do a bike review and kind of see where this leads. And so that got some views, and then it's like, okay, maybe there's something here. So that was 2017, and then I think it was at the end of like December 2017 or January 2018 that I made this video about, learning how to jump at the age of 40. You're not 14 anymore was the title of it.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember making that video, and it was just all like just pieced together. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
Um, and I still remember I was a little bit embarrassed about putting it out there, right? Because I don't know, it just wasn't up to, I guess, the standard that I was watching other videos at. And anyway, so that was like January 2018, and that video, it just went crazy, and I think it got like 500,000 views, and
Oh,
it took
wow.
me from, yeah, it took me from, I think I had 17 subscribers before that video, and then within like 2 months, it jumped to 1,000 subscribers. Um, so yeah, so 2018 is kind of like when I really started paying a little bit more attention and being more intentional about creating content. So about 6 years, I guess, but it hasn't been like fully dedicated. But yeah, I've kept it alive for the last 6 years.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's there's a level of effort there, regardless of like how often you're posting or like whatever. Like it, I mean, I'm pretty damn close to about the same time frame. I think 2017. I think I recorded my channel intro on the biker channel like December, between like Christmas and New Year's in December of 2016. And that's kind of like when I started. And I'm not like BKXE, like cranking out three
Yeah,
videos a week or whatever, and obviously, like, from what you're saying, it's the same thing, but it's still like it's a lot of time involved.
yeah, it definitely is, and you can see, and I'm sure you've seen it too, where when you dedicate time and you treat it almost like a job, right? And week after week, whether it's like one video per week, um, you see the results, I guess, when you look at your analytics. It's like, okay, and it kind of makes sense. At least how I think about the algorithm. It's like, you watched it last Friday. Hey, he dropped another video. It's Friday. Let me show it to you, right? And then you're
Hmm.
like, oh, okay. And so it's consistent. But when we're inconsistent, then that kind of doesn't help. But 2018 was a crazy year because that's the year that I had the most time. I'm gonna say the most time in that I was in between jobs. Things were a little bit crazy on the personal
Hmm.
side of things, and so yeah, I'm like I got time, and I started cranking out videos and kind of doing my thing. So I grew my channel. I think I don't know 2-3 thousand maybe that first year, and my writing got better because I had a lot more time. And then yeah, the channel did better as well. But yeah, I see others, and I know others that have been like grinding consistently, and I see the results, right? And so
Yeah.
much respect to those guys because they're putting in the work and they're getting the the fruit for their labor, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Have you had another video blow up like that one before, or again, or?
So it's crazy because I think the two that I've had, there's been a few in between, like in the 60,000 views, what have you, which,
Hmm.
by today's standards, that's not a whole lot. But the 500,000 views, I've had two. And that was the You're Not 14 Anymore. And before I go to the second one, let me just tell you a little bit about that video, though, because the reason why I titled it that way.
Hmm.
I remember I forgot where I was working, but I was riding on the weekend and I took a tumble and I actually injured my shoulder, right? So Monday I show up to work and I'm getting a cup of coffee, and then my boss comes over and he's like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right. I kind of took a spill over the weekend just bike riding." So then he looks at me and he goes, "Dude, you're not 14 anymore. Like, what are you doing out there?" Right? So when I was making the video, I thought, hey, that's a cool title. You're not 14 anymore, but you're not 74 either. Now, nothing against 74-year-old folks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of like where the title came, and I think that resonated with quite a few people, and so that was the first one. The second one is is this even worth it? The crash that made me think or rethink mountain biking, something like that.
Hmm.
It was a couple of years ago. I think it was 2022, and that one, there's a whole story behind that as well. But I remember when I was editing that video, I'm thinking, ain't nobody gonna want to watch this. I mean, people want to watch, things that are gonna get you stoked, things that are gonna get you like make you want to
Yeah.
go ride and so on. Um, who wants to see or watch a video about a guy, second guessing whether biking is the right thing, is it worth it or not? I thought, I don't know. This maybe there's somebody else out there kind of going mentally, right, going through the same thing. And so, yeah, I put it out there, and it like even every day there's still comments. I kid you not. Like every day there's probably about like 10 comments a day still. And this is two
Hmm.
years ago, and it's everyone just leaving their own stories. For the most part, they're all positive, I guess, not necessarily negative. But it's just, I'm 63 years old and this happened, or I remember when I was 38 and this happened. So that one resonated with people as well, and yeah, that was a hit, surprisingly.
Right on, man. I'm still waiting for one to go viral like that. One of these days. Apparently, I just make shitty videos.
Oh
It's all right
goodness.
though.
No, I
I
hear
found
you.
I found I found 20,000 of my people, and that's it. So
No, the that one, um it still sits with me. So there was a lot of, I don't want to say there was a lot of truth. There was everything I said in that video is actually, I'm still kind of living it. Is that I remember we went riding that day. I had just came back from like a work trip, and we went riding up to Idlewild. First time there, and I was with my buddy, and he was showing me around. We shuttled, and we did the whole thing, right? Like we did the pre-ride. So we took the first ride down, and it's gnarly. Like to this day, it's probably one of the gnarliest trails I've been on. So I'm like, all right, second lap, okay, not bad, but I wasn't, like, mentally, I wasn't 100% there. Like as I look back, and that could be due to a lot of reasons. But I wasn't 100% there. So then the third lap, we're going, and then I was trying to keep up with him because he and I at that time were about the same skill level. Um, and he's beyond me now. But anyway, so I was trying to keep up with him. And we came up on this one section that I knew it. It was like a what would you call it? A self fulfilled prophecy. I
Mhm.
knew it on that third lap. I'm like, once I get to this one rock slab that is like just steep, and it's just like, just bump after bump after bump. I thought, yeah, if I'm gonna fall, it's gonna be there. Um, and so, anyway, so we get on there, and sure enough, I'm going down, and I'm trying to pick up speed because hey, this is the free ride lap, so
Mhm.
supposed to be a little bit faster. And yeah, my front wheel just kind of turned to the left, and then I went over the bars. But I still remember, and I think I still have a screenshot, that as I went over the bars, it's so steep that my right foot caught like the handlebar, and so now I landed on my left leg on one foot, and I'm trying to maintain, like, just not go over. And then I just couldn't. I did like three hops, and I couldn't maintain because of the momentum. So I just threw myself. I threw myself, and I rolled. And it wasn't so much the injury or injuries, because fortunately I didn't like break, fracture, anything. Um, but it shook me mentally. So
Mhm.
I sat there and I thought, okay, look at where we're at. The only way out of this mountain is in a helicopter. Like there is no other way. And it's gonna take them a minute to get here. And then
Mhm.
things just started going through my head. All right, what plans did I have today? Okay, the kids and the wife, we're gonna go watch a movie. Then after this, we were gonna go do that, and then that. And then I'm thinking, like, is this all worth it, right? To not be able to do all those
Mhm.
things with family and friends and work and what have you. So yeah, that one, it left me like that. So I was still trying to play it off. I met up with my buddy who was waiting for me, and I'm like, I'm good, man, I'm good. So we made it down, and he's like, one more lap. I'm like, no, I'm good. So I just shuttled them back to the top. And then while I was waiting at the bottom, that's when the thoughts started kind of going through my head. And then, yeah, long story short, I guess I made it home. He dropped me off, and I literally walked into the garage and I grabbed my bike, and I just wanted to, and no exaggeration, I wanted to just throw it. And it's
Mhm.
like, why? Like, why am I doing this? And I put it off to the side. I walked in. My wife is, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just mad. I don't know what I'm mad about, but I'm
Yeah.
not happy right now." Um, and yeah, it was like a mental hit. Um, so then after that, I just thought like, I don't know, is this worth it? And that's when
Right.
I just, one morning I woke up and I sat in the car and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna tell everything that I'm feeling inside. I'm gonna go ahead and share it, make a video out of it, and then just see if it resonates and it helps
Yeah.
anyone. Yeah, that's kind of like how that went.
Yeah, I think I watched that one. It's like a drop at the beginning off of like a door or something.
Um, I don't know because I started that one off with like everybody crashes and it's just like a bunch of like
No, but I mean the trail
it,
you were riding, it has some kinda like door drop on it or something like that?
no, yeah, there's one section of that, but where I actually took the spill was like this just huge rock slab.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think,
yeah. I'm just saying
yeah,
to make sure I'm thinking about the right video. There was like
yes,
a
yes,
like yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I remember I remember looking at, the feature that you crashed on and thinking like, "Typical freaking GoPro, man. It definitely doesn't look as, like, gnarly as it I'm sure it is." You know what I mean?
it does not do it justice. I mean, a lot of the comments were like, dude, that was like the softest fall, right? And I'm like, yeah, it wasn't bad. It could have been so much worse. And
Yeah,
that's the point of it. It's,
yeah.
is the risk, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah, one of my buddies took a spill recently where it was like, a trail that we actually built and, just, like, washed out at the wrong spot and, like, basically, like, tried to tackle a tree at, like, 15 to 20 miles an hour, and
Sheesh.
it just rattled him, though, like, I mean, he was he didn't break anything or anything like that, but, like, beat him up for a while, it took him a few days or whatever to, like, start feeling better, but, like, mentally, he was, like, kinda did the same thing where it was like, "Dude, like, what if I hit that a little differently and I snap my
Right.
neck?" Like, just a little differently, like,
Just
holy
slightly
shit.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like it was it's those things like that that are like they're those, like, the wake up calls, like, that time whenever you're just like it really puts it into perspective, like, how dangerous what we're doing is because we really normalize it, you know?
Right.
And even when you're, like, newer, like, there's still a lot of opportunity. Like, I'm going way faster now, and I'm riding on way more stupid shit than I did back then. But even then, it's like you still could like slip off of some,
Yeah.
exposed spot and tumble, 20 freaking yards down some hill or something like that. I mean, people die in the shower,
Yeah.
like just slipping, So it's like it's definitely a lot more dangerous than we think, or than we like probably purposefully, like, wrap our head around, you know?
Yeah. No, you're right. I think I remember one of the video I made like a 3 video series on you're not progressing unless you're crashing, something
Mhm,
like that, right? And I remember at least in how it plays out in my head or how it's played out, I guess in like in my writing journey is, you have your vertical axis and your horizontal axis. And on one side, it's like, your experience down at the bottom, I guess how, like, I don't know how much experience you have. And then the vertical axis would be like the risk or risk
mhm.
consequence. I don't know how I did that chart.
Yeah, yeah.
Point is, when you're first starting off, there's a lot of risk, but the consequences aren't as big because you're not going as fast, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, you're also not doing as, like, sketchy shit.
Exactly, right? Because you're
Yeah,
still learning.
right.
But as you progress, you get to that point, and I saw it at least in my own personal experience. You get to the point where I'm crashing, 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 and then progressively, yeah, I'm fracturing my collarbone, taking some hits here and there. But then it got to the point where it's like I peaked, and then I just started coming down, and I'm not crashing as much. But those times that I do crash because I'm going faster,
Yeah.
those carry a lot more consequences. So it's kind of like the ratio of risk versus consequences. But yeah, again, at the beginning, I accepted, and I still accept that the risk is there. I think what I learned from that story that I was just sharing with you and about that video now is I made a lot of changes. So I got rid of like my full enduro, full suspension, long travel enduro bike. I had a Meta, Commensal Meta SX. Got rid of that, and I went more trail bike. And my logic behind that was, if I'm in a smaller, less capable bike, right, I'm not going to push as hard.
Yeah.
It's like
I
sitting,
don't feel
like
like
sit,
that worked for me.
yeah,
It probably
yeah.
didn't work for you either.
No, it's funny because I progressed to where last year I bought the shortest travel bike that I've ever had, I think. And I bought my Norco, which is back like right behind me.
Uh-huh.
And that one's like stock is like 130, 140, right? 30
Uh-huh.
in the back, 140 in the front. I overstroked it and overforked it. So now I'm running, 160 in the front, and it's almost like 140 something in the rear. Um,
Right.
so so it doesn't necessarily quite work, but the biggest lesson, at least that I'm still putting into work today, is if I'm not feeling it, I'm just not taking it. I'm not taking the risk. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I do that. I definitely like um I've gotten into riding, hardtail again, and I really like having like a short travel 29er, but I still have the bigger bike as well. But I push those little bikes probably harder
yeah,
than I push the bigger bike, to tell you the truth, because I'm just constantly trying to it's like, oh well, I can pin this trail at this speed on
right,
my other bike. Well, I should be able to do it on this one. And it's like, I don't know what the logic is, but I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
I should be able to have the same time on my hardtail on this trail as I can on my enduro bike. And it's like kind of ridiculous, but I do it anyway. And it's just it like underbiking definitely doesn't do anything for me except for probably make it more dangerous.
yeah. It does kind of tempt you, like, how hard can I push this little bike type of thing.
Well, and then there's so much like more efficient on pedaling, where
Yeah,
you're like, oh my god, dude, I can lay in like some serious power on these like flat spots. So then you're coming into like the chunky spots like even faster,
yeah.
and then you have less suspension to deal with it. So I don't know, like it's like it's the catch 22.
No, it really is. And again, right? It's like I still love mountain biking. I still love riding, and I still push. I'm just a little bit. I don't want to say smarter because I don't want to, insinuate that the opposite are not right.
Yeah,
But I guess I'm more in tune with how I'm feeling at that moment,
yeah,
on that day. And so if I didn't get enough sleep, that's one of them. Like if I don't get enough sleep and I'm out there and I'm just not mentally like sharp, then I just know I'm gonna take a spill. So that's when I just tone it down a
yeah,
little bit. But if I'm feeling it,
yeah,
I'm pushing, right?
yeah,
I'm gonna see just how much and how fast and so on.
yeah.
But yeah, that was that video. The second one, I guess, that I've had that
Mm,
has gotten me three things: the most views, the most subscribers, and the more money in terms of like
yeah,
monetizing. It's so
yeah, yeah.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's key to what you're saying there about that voice in your head though, because like um I've definitely I feel like I've been pretty good at listening to that most of my life, and I definitely notice it a lot on mountain bikes. Like there will be days where I'm just like, I know like I'm making stupid mistakes where it's like just like little shit where you're like just putting
yep,
your foot on the pedal and you're like you miss the pedal or something like that, and you're
yeah,
like, I'm like off today, man. And those are
yep,
the days where it's like you're standing on top of some big rock roll or something like that. And you're like, you know what? I know this is in my wheelhouse. I know I can do this, but like, I don't feel like today's the right day to do this, And,
yeah.
um, Yeah, and the other day I was riding, and I was kind of feeling that way all day. And there's this one trail that we were gonna ride. It's pretty sketchy, and I I was like, I'll be okay, man. And I tell you, I made it down the trail, but it was it was questionable how close I was to like completely eating shit. Like at
Yeah,
one point, I think I was rolling down this super steep section, not purposefully doing like a front wheel endo, like a millimeter forward more, and I would have been going over the bars.
right,
Colorado Kid was actually riding with me, and he was behind me, and he's like, "Don't die, Robert!" Like it was that bad. It just looked horrible, and I was like, "Dude, I wasn't like, I definitely wasn't listening to the voice that day."
right. And then
But
and then there's and then there's other days where you're feeling it, right? You're just like mentally sharp and focused, and juices are flowing, and you're making mistakes, but you're still having fun,
yeah,
because it's like it's everything just seems to be there. But yeah, no, that's similar to your story. What was it like? Probably like 4 weeks ago. I wasn't feeling it as well, so I figured, you know what, I'm just gonna go. And now I don't say one last run. Right now, I'm like two minus one. Okay, two minus one. Here we go. And I'm going, and I get right to the very end. This is one of the local trails here. Right to the very end. I mean, I just completed probably one of the techiest ones that we have, and I'm right at the bottom, and I'm cruising, and I hit a rock, pedal strike, sends me right over the bars, and I'm already done, right? Right over the bars, and then I land right up against the rock, and it like kind of messed up my wrist. But I thought, there it is. So I don't know if it's like a self fulfilled prophecy type of
yeah. It
thing,
makes you
but
wonder, right? Did I set myself
yeah,
up for that just by thinking this shit?
yeah. So it's I don't know. I just yeah, I don't want to say I'm in my head, but I do pay attention to that voice.
Yeah,
And then there are times where I'm just like, nope, shake it off. This is gonna be a good
yeah,
day. And then I just get back into it. But I just, that's something that I'm still working through from that particular crash at Idlewild 2 years ago.
yeah, yeah. That stuff will shake you for a while, man. You had mentioned a shoulder injury years ago. I had a crash. My fork failed, and it made me like
Oh,
basically like go over the bars and just smash the ground, right? And I wasn't really going that fast. It
yeah,
wasn't like a super chunky section. Basically, like the way the doctor said to me, he's like, "Dude, every time you've fallen on that shoulder in your life, it's like a big ball of rubber bands, man. And you just snapped the last one that day, you know." And
oh shoot,
it took me like, let's just say, like almost 6 months to be able to ride again. And that, from the point of getting back to riding again to the point of where I was like pushing and taking
yeah,
chances, it was probably a couple of years till I
oh
finally
wow,
like was to the point of like where I wasn't so afraid of getting hurt. You know what I mean?
right, right,
And I feel like I'm not like as unafraid of getting hurt as I was then, but
yeah,
it's close, and I can see that, and it like almost gives me a little bit of anxiety that I'm like not scared anymore. You know what I
right,
mean? Because then I'm
yeah,
like, man, am I taking bigger chances again? Is that what's happening? Because the thing with that crash was like there was nothing like in my mind at that time. I was like, I always ride within my skill set. I don't like push too hard. If I'm going to fall, it's not going to be bad, and blah, 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 blah. And I never really thought about like a piece of my equipment failing. You know
right,
what I
right.
mean? Like
Yeah,
you
I
see
mean, you
like
don't
that.
think about that.
Right. And then, so that's the one thing that like gets in my head. I'm like, dude, what would I do if I'm smashing down like that trail I was talking about the other day, and it's like, and my handlebar snapped, you
Right,
know? Like what would I do if like, like you see these guys like frames break. It's not like it's not like, oh, it's carbon or it's aluminum or whatever.
right,
Like
right.
shit just fucking
Yeah,
happens, man. You're like beating
yeah,
the hell out of it for sometimes shit fails. It's like, what would I do? Like if my stem snapped, or something like
yeah,
that. It's like, fuck,
yeah.
man.
That's for me. It's funny you bring that up because like there's a couple of things that I'm very meticulous about when it comes to my bike. One is making sure that I have enough sealant in my tires. So, because I only get to ride like once or twice a week, right? At most twice. And the last thing I want is to a ride to be ruined simply because I didn't maintain sealant in my tires. So I'm
Yeah,
always
yeah.
conscious about that. Like that's just me.
I'm the polar opposite. I'm like changing my tires after having them for 6 months because they're worn out, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's no sealant in here.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, some people just like, don't. Those are things you don't think about. But like for me, it's like I've had it happen one too many times, and it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
no, I need to make the best out of this ride, and so nothing. But the second one is about what you were talking about, like mechanical failures, especially when you're riding. There's this one trail here that I ride, and then you come into it, and then it's like a tight right hander, and then you got to pedal. Like you just
mhm,
got to get on your pedals, and then there's a step up, right? And I'm constantly, I'm like, just I got to make sure that my shifting is precise, because I'm on like my lowest highest gear, I guess, when I'm going through that section. So I have to pedal. The last thing I want is to drop that chain, or
yeah,
like a, something to just not go right with that chain in the derailleur, what have you. And then I just, I tumble. And yeah,
yeah,
so that's something. Those are the two things. Sealant and my shifting has to be precise. Like
yeah,
outside of that, I think everything else is kind of like, it'll I'll be all right.
yeah.
Uh,
I'm about as good of a mechanic as keeps my bike moving, and and I'll hear something wrong, and it'll be like, listen to it for the whole ride and be like, oh my god, that's so fucking annoying. As soon as I get home, I'll
yeah.
fix that. And then my next ride, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I didn't fix that again. And then I do that for like a month before finally I'm like, that's it. Today I'm doing it. And yeah, it's
It drags on.
oh yeah, it's pathetic, man. It's so bad. I can't even tell you how many times it's been like there was one time where I did like 3 rides where my shifting was all fucked up and I was all irritated
Ugh,
about it. And and then I like finally like stopped in the middle of the trail. It's like, I'm gonna look at this right now. And it was
yeah.
like my axle was loose, like literally for like 3 rides, and didn't even like it's like, oh my god, dude. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, no, it's I like to. I'm not necessarily like I'm not gonna call myself a mechanic, but
Yeah.
I do like to tinker with the bike, and I don't know. I always think of that as I'm out there riding. This is my once in the week that I get to
Yeah.
ride. I don't necessarily want anything to go wrong with it. And but yeah, no, it's yeah, things can happen. But back to like the whole crashing conversation here, real quick. I remember for me when I first started riding, and I started thinking like I want to get better, right? Like I want to take on like more features. I don't want to go around jumps.
Mhm.
I want to hit the jumps. And it like one day it just clicked. Like when was the last time that I fell off my bike, that I took a spill, that I crashed? And then I
Mhm.
thought, yeah, I haven't. Right. This is when I first started. And then I went back to when I was like 17 or so. I used to skate. So like I used to fall a whole lot skating. And I got better as a result because it's part of progressing, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, so then I thought, well, shoot, if I want to get better, I need to take more risks. And if I'm going to take more risks, then I need to accept the fact that, crashing is going to come with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of like it started, and so I did. I started like taking more spills, and but I started to progress. I guess is my point. Is at that time I was okay accepting whatever the risk was.
Mhm.
Now I still want to get better, but I'm at a point where I'm not. It's not I'm not competing against anyone necessarily,
Mhm.
except myself, right? So I'm okay if if I'm not as good, this year, as
Yeah.
I could have been, like I don't know, in 6 months, or like anybody else. So that's kind of
I
like where
feel
my
like
mind
I'm
is.
pretty happy with where I'm at, to
Yeah,
be honest. Like, if anything, man, I wouldn't mind being better at jumping. Like, I don't do a lot of jumping, but I also don't do jumping kind of on purpose because I feel like that's where you really open up the risk
yeah,
for like how bad you can get hurt, you know? So, but I mean, as far as like I mean, I can do big rides. I can do like tech, pretty much like don't run into like technical shit that like I can't do, you know. And if it is, it's like that looks really stupid. I don't think I
Yeah.
really need to be able to do that, you know. So I mean, I wouldn't say that I don't have more to learn, but I definitely am not like striving to get better than I am right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, no, yeah, and I hear you. I'm right there as well, right? Like I'm happy with where I'm at. I see others that are that have progressed, and I'm like, hey, good stuff, man. Good for you. I'll
Yeah.
cheer you on. For me, I think what keeps me going right now is, and it's the reason why I didn't get rid of my pedal bike. If I don't even know what we call it anymore, my regular bike, because I
Hmm.
ended up getting an e-bike. Is I do it for fun. I do it for fitness. Um, and then I do it to challenge myself. So like we have local trails here, and every winter we get like a
Hmm.
new trail that gets built. And so like I don't want to say my purpose, but my goal, at least in the last however many years of riding, have been, there's this one trail that I'm not able to hit everything. So let's work on that. So I'll go for a ride and then I'll session like one feature. Then I nail that. Then it's like, oh, okay, cool. There's this other feature that I haven't been able to quite dial in. Let me work on that. And then eventually, right, like a year later, maybe, I'm now riding a trail that I couldn't ride like fully, like full pull hit everything the year before. But now I am. So that brings me satisfaction, right? And fulfillment, I guess. And yeah, that's what keeps me going.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's good stuff, man. It's definitely it's always an evolution, right?
It really is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So back to your channel, what do you do basically? Like what kind of content do you make?
So most of my content, it's obviously just bike related. And I say most of it because every now and then I'll get like an email on some, I don't know, what do you call jaw or bone conduction, like headphones, and do a
Hmm.
review and you get to keep them. And a couple of times they've actually paid. So I'll do like a review on accessories, I guess, but mainly mountain biking. And I always I always go towards like the more storytelling type of videos.
Hmm.
So rather than just posting like I went on a ride, it's like, okay, I did go on a ride, but how do I tell, like, there's got to be a story there.
Hmm.
And that's just something that I always lean towards. So yeah, I'll do like, this is how I ride the trail. Like I think I uploaded, no, I actually do, it went live today, so I uploaded one today of, this is how I learned to ride a new trail.
Hmm.
So then I go through like what I do. I'll take the first lap, second lap. This is what I look at. Da, 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 da. So it's a little bit of a narrative that goes with it. It's not all, just that first person point of view type of footage.
Hmm.
Um, and then I'll do reviews. So like Commensal was kind enough here a couple months back and let me take on one of their the new Meta V5. So I
Hmm.
took it out, did a review on that. But yeah, mainly is for a while it was progressing, tackling new features. This is how I ride this trail, how to ride tech, and then just things that happen along the
Hmm.
way, decisions that I make, and
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so it's more. It's yeah, it's a little bit more. I don't know, a bit of a personal thing to it.
Yeah. 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 It sounds like your stories are kind of like mine. How old are you?
I just turned 50
So 50.
last year in October. Yeah.
Do you think that your age plays into like the risk reward thing? You know, like you're just wiser, or do you think it's like just the way evolution goes? You know?
I think it does. It's yeah. It's now you're making me think, right? Like
Yeah.
I really think it does, because I was telling my wife this the other day. I remember when I was 30, I didn't think about retirement, right? I just
Hmm.
thought, shoot, I still got 35 more years if I retire at 65.
Right.
So I didn't really give it too much thought. Now, like I'm constantly thinking, okay, are we going to be well off? Like, what about this? So, as an example, right, like my channel, whether it's growing fast or not, my plan is to continue to stay with it, and creating content and hopefully making it a little bit more profitable, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And the idea is, let me add value, at the very least entertaining to you. um, but when I retire, like, I want to have that there for me, to where I have built a community, you
yeah.
know um, an audience, I guess, that we can still connect, and it'll
Hmm.
keep me busy, in retirement, while at the same time bring in, hopefully, like, an additional, income, I guess. But yeah, so I think age does play into it, at least for me.
Yeah,
We're not all wired the same, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's funny you say that because like that's one of the things that I've told a bunch of people about the podcast is like this is like instead of like working at Home Depot, like when I'm 65 and retired, I can just keep doing this podcast and like that'll keep me busy and it'll be like it's not like I have to be out there like riding gnarly stuff or whatever. It's like I'm just
Hmm.
talking to people about bikes. So like I could even be at a point where I'm not riding bikes anymore. I could still be talking to people about riding bikes. You know
Right,
what I
right,
mean? So
exactly.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't know.
yeah.
It's YouTube's a funny thing, it's like I personally find myself like going back and forth between like sometimes where I'm like, man, it would be rad if I could just do this all the time and this would like be my job and I can make enough money for it to be my job. And then there's other times where I'm like, I'm perfectly content with where I'm
Right.
at with it right now and like the amount of effort that I have to put in or am putting in and like I think at this point, like your community is like mine, you're probably pretty like geographically popular. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
people recognize you on your local trails because you
Hmm.
film there a lot and stuff like that. And it's like, this is pretty cool. You know what I mean? Do I want to
Yep.
necessarily be like Seth, where it's like you can't go to a restaurant without like people coming up to you and like you're like walking around sea otter like behind tents so people like so you can actually like get across the side of the like event without being
Right.
stopped every 3 feet. It's like wow, that's kind of a different like that's a different level. I don't know if I want all that.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, there's an opportunity cost to everything, right? And this is like, still related to the topic, is like, I've seen it. So back to 2022, when I made that video about crashing, I remember I was surprised. So that was in May. I think it was June. I never really look at, the how much money, I guess, I'm gonna get from YouTube that month.
Hmm.
And then I looked at it in June, and I want to say I had 900 coming my way, right? And I'm
Yeah,
like, oh shoot, that's like the most I've ever seen in a month. Like, that
yeah,
is
yeah,
crazy. And I'm going back, and I'm like, well, this video is just going wild, and other videos are, as a result of that one. And then, like, July came, and it was like 700 and something, right? And I'm like, wait. So I kept on making. So after that crashed video, I made another one about, like, hey, I sold my bike and I got a smaller one, type of thing, right? Like, kept the topic going. And then I made another one about progression creep, like progression. Like, if you like so focused on progression, like, be careful, because it'll creep up on you and it can get the best of you. Anyways,
hmm,
long story, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I saw that, how, I guess, if you're able to just find your rhythm, your groove, what have
hmm,
you can generate some decent income, right? Like, and we've
yeah,
seen others that have done it. Um, and then all of a sudden, like, I needed to stop because I just didn't have the time anymore, and I other things, like, the holidays came in, and then I saw, like, okay, I'm not
yeah,
getting like a whole lot of attention, right? Um,
yeah,
so then now I think about it, and it's like, I know now that if I want to grow my channel and I want to grow, like, say, revenue again, I need to dedicate a lot of time and a lot of effort to it. So
hmm,
I know what I need to do. Now the question is, like, what's it going to cost me?
yeah,
Um, so for me, I'm on this side thinking, well, I have three adult kids, right? They're
mhm,
soon, like, um, we're gonna be like empty nesters here pretty soon. So it's
yeah,
like, okay, like, no, I think I need to cultivate, like, this side of my personal life, a
mhm,
little bit more, because I don't want to get to a point where, that's going to be an issue. So,
mhm,
like, balancing, all those things. So that's when I make the decision, like, yeah, I could go writing and I could film this, but it's the cost is it's not worth it. Um,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I still want to maintain it. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm okay maintaining a steadily type of growth,
Mhm.
as opposed to just like coming right
Yeah.
out the gate.
Yeah, I
If that
think
makes sense.
before I used to be more focused on growth, and now I'm like
Yeah.
more like I just want to be inspired to make the video.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like if
Yeah.
I'm not inspired to make the video, like I just I don't know. I'll procrastinate and procrastinate. Like I'll
Yeah.
go up to my computer and spend 6 hours watching YouTube videos and researching shit on something else instead of like doing the video. Like
Yeah.
like I'll
Yeah.
open up Premiere and I'll watch the last like 3 minutes that I edited so I can get myself back in the spot.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh yeah, I need some music. And then I'll like click open my browser to get to Epidemic. And then I'm like, oh, what's that other tab I got over? Oh yeah, that's right. And then like, poof, I'm gone. And it's like
Yep.
it's like a mission to get through it. And other times where it's like, dude, I'm so stoked.
Yeah.
I'm feeling that creative kind of vibe. And um I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I have to force it though to get it started. You know,
Yeah.
where like once I like lean in for like the first 10 minutes and then I'm like, okay, now I'm stuck. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but other times it's just like it's tough to get over that hump. But that's really what it comes down to, I think, for me now is I just want to like make videos that I'm like proud of
Yeah.
and like get better, but not just make videos to make videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's I remember when BKXC, started his channel a while back, right? I don't know
Mhm.
if he had just started it or not, but it was like around that 2017, 2018. At least
I
that's
think
when
it's
I found him.
yeah, yeah, I think he started, like, 2016, right around there.
Yeah, so back
Mhm.
in like 2018, I think that's when I discovered him and like I started supporting him on Patreon. And remember, I asked him a question about like videos, just questions, and I still remember the answer was, dude, just make the videos you want to make, like the ones that you want to make. Obviously, you can try and cater and tailor those videos to whatever it's going to get you the most views here and there.
Yeah,
But just make the videos you want to make. Be happy with what you're creating.
yeah.
And so, yeah, it's like there's certain ones that I like, and I'm thinking I don't think this video is going to do really well,
Mhm,
but I really like the either the song that inspired the video, because there's times like
mhm,
a song will just I don't know, I'll hear a song and it's like I know I can't monetize that because copyright, what have you, but I like that song.
mhm.
So I'm gonna go ahead and make a video. Like I think it's gonna be
Yeah,
cool. Whether
yeah,
it does well or not, I'm gonna be happy with it. And then I just jump
yeah.
right in and but yeah, I think for me as well, I am doing better now though. Before I used to crank out the video, like I used to procrastinate and do it like, then I don't know, 6 hours like on a Friday night into like
Yeah,
early Saturday morning, right? Now I'm like, no, like Monday, like I'll shoot whatever, I get the footage. Monday I'll drop it in. I use DaVinci, I used to use Premiere, but I'll drop it in, right? Um, and it's like, okay, it's in. All right. Then like the next day, I'm like, hey, I think I'm just gonna see what the color grading. I'm still learning that. It's like, okay, I
mhm.
think I can, yeah, and I'll do that. And then I'll start, cutting and slicing and putting it together. And then like the final thing is like, okay, let me put the music, make sure everything like, sounds right. And so now like I'm spacing it out, I guess, and giving myself enough time to think to see if other more, I don't know, more creative ways of making it more entertaining, I guess, come my way. Well, at the same time, I'm still balancing my personal life with like family, as opposed to just being locked behind in a room behind a closed door for 6 hours, just grinding away
Yeah,
and making it. But
yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
seems to be working.
It's easy to fall into, like, ignoring everything else in your life when you get into that, like, space, you know? I know when I first started my channel, that's, like, all I could do,
Yeah.
and, I definitely, like, my personal life, like, took a hit, like, I
Hmm.
wasn't it took me to, like having a conversation with my wife where it was like, oh, I need to like pump the brakes here because I'm like just not paying attention to anybody, and it's like it was either like leave the house to go record somewhere or be at the house but be editing and not available. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And
You're there, but not there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm right upstairs, but I'm like not hanging out with you and I'm not talking to you and I'm not, you know what I mean? It's like um that's not good. That's like, you know, I think part of just my personality set too. I tend to like hyper focus on things. So I think the older I get, the better I get at recognizing when I'm doing it, you know?
Yeah. 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 And being okay with it, right? It's like,
Yeah,
when,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
sometimes it's a good thing, It's like that's like what helps me lock in, but other times it's like I have to like mentally be like, you know what? I haven't like spent the day with my wife on the weekend for like a couple of weeks now. It's like instead I'm like, oh, I want to go build this trail or I want to go ride this trail or I'm going to go do this, and it's like, then I start realizing I'm like, when was the last time her and I did something together? I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I need to get my shit together, dude.
let me slow it down a little bit here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna bring this up. One of the guys in the comments is War Within. He says, were you a fellow crayon eater too? Were you in the Marines?
I wasn't. I was in the Army National Guard.
Oh, right on. I was in the
Yeah,
army
yeah.
as well. What'd you do in the army?
Well, so I went in. I got to answer it this way because it was an interesting, I guess, way of getting into the Army. So I couldn't get in because I had slight hearing loss,
Hmm.
right? And they're like, you're not physically fit.
Yeah, they're fine with
I,
discharging you that way, but
yeah. So I'm like, but I really want to get in. So
yeah.
the recruiter was telling me, I think we can get you in if we get a waiver, but you will need to go in as a what was it, medical supply specialist, which was like a 76 Juliet at the time, right? And I'm like, uh, okay, yeah. And he's like, once you're in, then you can change your MOS. It's like, all right. So, anyways, went to basic training in Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri, and then came back, and I'm in this unit, and all of a sudden, I don't know, I guess meant to be, that unit became deactivated and they said, hey, you get to pick an MOS now. So
Mm,
whichever one you want, obviously, you got to make sure that you qualify for that. So I wanted to be 11 Bravo. And
yeah,
that's what I wanted to do, right?
yeah.
Um, so they're like, okay, there's 11 Mike, which is mechanized infantry, and there's a unit right by where you live. So how about that? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I did serve for a few years there, and that's what I was, 11 Mike.
All right on, man. Another
Yeah, yeah,
another.
yeah.
I was in the infantry as well.
Oh,
I
were
was
you?
11. Yeah, yeah. I was 11 Bravo. I went into the to take my ASVAB, and I scored high, which I don't know how the fuck that happened, but I did.
Yeah.
And basically, like they were trying to get me to do MI, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Military.
and I was like, no, I don't want that job. I want to be 11 Bravo. And they were like, I literally remember the guy at MEPS like stopped, like pulled me to the side. He's like, look, dude, this is a really good job, man. Like you should take this job.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, dude, I'm leaving unless you make me 11 Bravo and you get me guaranteed that I'm going to Europe. And he's like, just kind of shook his head. He's like, man. And I left, dude. And sure enough, they
Oh
they
well.
they sure as shit found that job for me a couple days later. They're like, you know what? Get on back down here. But yeah, I always say that the army was the best and the worst time of my life. It's like the best friends ever, the worst management I could
Yeah.
ever imagine. But
I I
go
I
ahead.
was just think. No, I was just gonna say. I think back, and at least when I was going through basic, and I remember like just the whole experience, right? But I remember like specifically this one girl, and she was just petite and very timid, and just I'm gonna say insecure, but at least that was my perception, right, when I saw it.
Mhm,
And obviously I didn't get to go to Benning for 11 Bravo, so I went to a co-ed basic training for 76 Juliet. Um,
mhm.
but I remember at the very end when we graduated, like she was a completely different person, like full of confidence and just
Mhm.
like completely different. And so to this day, I'm like, I don't know. I know that, probably controversial, but like I think like sometimes I think everyone should do at least a year or 2 years, like coming out of high school or something, just to kind of get you to man up.
Dude, it
I
definitely teaches you a lot of things about yourself, man. I completely agree with you. A lot of the Europe I was in a NATO unit in Europe, so a lot of the European countries, they had mandatory, like, you had to do a year, some of the
Oh, okay.
countries, some of them was like 2 years or whatever, but I really think, it's not for everyone. We'll definitely say
Right.
that, but, most people come out of that with some very positive changes in their lives, and, yeah, the one thing I wanted to ask you, though, is I really look at mountain biking, and I think one of the reasons that I like mountain biking the way that I do, because I think it reminds me of my time in the infantry. Like, you go out and you do something that really sucks with your buddies or whatever, you know what I mean? And you, like, kinda, like,
Yeah.
get through that, or it's this adventure kinda thing, and then it's like then you get this adrenaline part, where it's
Yeah.
just like, it's like unloading a 200 round drum out of a saw. It's like, that's fucking fun, like,
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
I think it's definitely, I reckon, like, to me, I feel like it's that same camaraderie that you get from like other people that you mountain bike with, and I think that's one of the reasons that I really enjoy mountain biking is like that aspect of like pushing yourself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like in the same way, right? Like whether everyone out on the field is wearing like BDUs, the same uniform type of thing. You go out on the trail, and at times, like if I were to see some of those guys like out on the street, like at the supermarket, I probably wouldn't recognize some of them because I'm
Yeah,
so used to seeing them with a helmet and like the bike that they ride, and it's like
yeah,
the wheels, right? It's like, oh yeah, you're the one that has the orange spokes, and
yeah,
there's just something, right? So yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the cool part about it is when we are out there, it's like we don't see anything else other than like we have that in common, and
yeah,
yeah, let's have some fun and seek some thrills, and yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
yeah. It's definitely like a lot of parallels there for me. Like, and I just think about like I don't know, like, if we're doing some big long super climb that's at high elevation and it just sucks
Yeah,
something fierce. And it's like it's the same thing as like if we were on patrol and we're like walking all fucking night long and I got, 100 pounds on my back and I'm like, it's just like I remember when we would do patrols in Bosnia, it would be like I could walk the whole fucking time and I'd be fine, man. And as soon as I got to the point where I could see where we were gonna stop, it was like pain just came from everywhere.
yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
you'd start like moving, like shrugging your pack up, and like trying to readjust, and like everything just starts fucking hurting out and everywhere. And but like you had to like find that mental fortitude just to
yeah,
like to finish, and it's that
yeah,
same thing on those big climbs where it's like you're looking at that last like 200 yards or 100 yards and it's like, oh man, there's that rock section there too, and you're like, oh god, I just want to quit so bad. And you just have to dig deep, and I think it's like I think that doing some kind of sport, whether it's mountain biking or any kind of like thing, like where you have to like mentally push yourself, man, I think that keeps you alive, you know?
yeah. No, yeah, I agree. And you just reminded me of something else too, because it's uncommon, right? Like in an average day, I guess, average person's day, right? Like you don't encounter those situations like that. Like you're
Yeah.
climbing up and you gotta find like something within you to just get you to the top. I remember I did a tough mutter, one of those tough mutter
Mhm.
events.
Yeah.
And it's like 23 obstacles and 20 something miles. Um, and you jump over. It's like so you can face your whatever your fears are. Well, I
Hmm.
remember this one obstacle that it was basically you got to like these big old plastic pipes, I guess, and there was a rope coming down. It was almost vertical, but not quite. There's a rope coming down, like a knotted rope, but there's a ton of water just like gushing down this pipe,
Mhm.
and you have to climb up it. So now you're in this pipe and you're climbing up, and this water's on you. So I remember when I got to that and I started to climb, like it threw me into like a shock. It's like, this is, I've never felt this before. I don't know how to
Mhm.
react. I'm not going to be able to make it to the top. And
Mhm.
then in like in a quick like split second, it's like, wait, hold on. This is just water. Like this
Yeah.
is, I'm not drowning here. It's just foreign to me. I've never had this happen. So
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, okay, so I'm okay with this. So then I started climbing, and it's like, it wasn't easy, but I got over that initial shock. So yeah, I think, similar, right? Like you're out on the bike, whether you take a spill, eventually you kind of get, I don't want to say used to it, but you're not gonna be in shock like, oh my gosh, I almost
Yeah.
died. Like, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah, yeah.
so it kind of, I don't know. I think it does make you mentally strong in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that thing about the water. I did this hike in Jamaica that's like it's like a super touristy spot. It's like these waterfalls, right? And it's like there's a billion pictures of it online. Like you just look up like falls in Jamaica, and there's like a row of people, just like walking up these
Yeah,
rocks. It's like beautiful, like waterfall. It's like super wide, but it's not like huge. They're just like little spots here and there and there, and um anyway, so like my wife and I are both kind of like adventurous, so we're obviously like always somehow or another we get ourselves into like
yeah,
other weird shit, right? And like the I don't know what it was that we were doing that the like guide was like, "Oh, you guys are like a little more adventuresome." He's like, "Go this way and go this way."
yeah,
And there's this one spot where we were climbing up this waterfall, and it was probably like, I don't know, like 20 feet or so that you had to climb up. But like it was like you said, you like stepped into
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And then at that point you couldn't see. You just had to use your hands
yeah,
to like figure out where the next spot was to like go. And like if you're watching it from the outside, it looks like there's just water pouring over that guy that's climbing up. But like when you're
yeah.
in it,
It's
it's like your brain's like, and I remember I had
like,
that
what
same
is
like
this?
panic for a second. And then it was like I remember like you said, it kind of like clicked, and I just remember being like, dude, put your chin to your chest,
Yeah, yep,
and the water just goes right around your
yep,
face, and you can breathe just fine. And it was like,
exactly.
oh wow, okay. I like for a second though, man, I was about to freak the fuck out, Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely could 100% relate with what you're saying there. That's funny that you said that. Totally brought that memory back for
Right,
me.
but it's right there, right? Like it's so clear. Like you
Yeah.
remember that moment. And and again, right, I think it's those things that, I don't know, they just make, I think it makes us mentally strong and prepares us for any other type of situation where, we didn't see something coming and it just happens, and we
Hmm.
can more easily react and kind of get a hold of ourselves, more so than someone that hasn't, gone
Yeah.
through anything like that.
Yeah. 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 Good stuff. So you were down there in 29 Palms, huh?
No, actually, right here, the unit was in Riverside.
Oh wow. Oh,
Because
right
yeah,
on.
because it's National Guard,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So yeah, right here in Riverside. So yeah, like I said, unfortunately, I wanted to go to Benning to do my basic, but by the time I got into the 11 mic, I what did I go for 400 Liggett, like up
Yeah.
there, I think up north where you're at.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right
yeah,
on. You're lucky you didn't go to Benning. It wasn't it wasn't fun. But
yeah.
I'm sure
That
no
was the
matter
goal,
where
but
where you go, it's the same shit, man. So, um, but yeah, 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 definitely some interesting moments in that whole process. That's for sure.
yeah, I
So,
think
go ahead.
no, go ahead, go for it.
You're the guest, man. You talk.
No, I was just gonna say, the other thing that I found a lot, we hear a lot about how if you have like prior, like either BMX experience
Hmm.
or moto experience, that you can more easily transition into mountain biking. Um, I don't have that, but I did skate, as I mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
and you know that, I don't know. Now that I think about it, I would. I'm not a team sports kind of guy.
Hmm.
Um, I've always just been more like, like an individual, like me versus me type of a
Yeah.
sports person. So like skating, I used to love skating. And it was just that. It's like, can I get better? Can I get better?
Mhm.
And then try this and try that and take this risk. And then, obviously when you live through it and survive it, I guess, or
Mhm.
nail it, then it's just so rewarding. Um, so I think part of that transition, over to biking, to where it's just, I don't know, I found that like it's helpful in terms
Yeah.
of like, yeah, I kind of remember like if I wanted to do a 360, on my board, like I needed to do this and turn my head, and the rest of the body will follow. So
Mhm.
now it's like, okay, if I want to do this on the bike, like like in my mind it kind of makes sense, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, that's I think that's something that, at least for me, it definitely helped, like
I tried
transitioning. And
skating when I was younger.
did you?
I think I used it more to get around than I did to
Yeah.
actually, like, get better, and then, like, I could never do anything worth, like, that was cool.
That was
You know?
cool.
Yeah, like, I was like,
You kept
"Man."
your balance.
Yeah, that was it, man. I could do some, like, rail slides or something like that, and it's like, "Don't ask me to ollie because that's not gonna work." And you're like but, I
I
don't know,
got you.
I always rode bikes. So, I did ride BMX when I was
Oh, that's
younger,
cool.
and then,
Did you?
I was in middle school whenever, my mom was dating this guy that was into mountain biking that kinda got me started, and I think for me, bikes was always something that I was, like, not like, naturally gifted at, but I was,
Right.
like, naturally good at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, it
yeah.
was something I was decent at, and, like, it was something I was good enough at that I was willing to keep trying. You know what I
Gotcha,
mean?
gotcha. Yeah,
So, whatever that reason was, but yeah, just always really like riding bikes. Apparently, it doesn't go away. So,
yeah.
I wonder about that sometimes, you know? It's like, dude, I'm, like, 46, I'm still riding bikes like I'm fucking in high school, and it's like, am I gonna be like 52 and be like, I'm over it? You know, like, or is it like stuck forever now, you know?
No, but you know what? You just reminded me of something. My brother and I remember my brother's 1 year older than me, and this is I don't know. We were probably 20 in our mid 20s. Yeah, definitely like 25, 26 maybe. So I'm 50 now, right? So yeah. Um, and I remember we were just riding our bikes. This was more like just recreational, right, on our bikes. And we saw this one man, and he was on, I guess that I'm gonna call it a mountain bike at the time. And I remember we got into talking, and he said he was 57, I think. And then he rode away. And so my brother and I looked at each other and we're like, dude, like when we like that's our goal, when we're 57, we need to be like that guy right there, like
Yeah.
fit like he is and still riding. And so it's funny because now I'm 50, right? Like I'm right there. And I'm like, hey, in a way, and my brother still rides too. So we're like, hey, we pretty much
We did it.
accomplished,
Yeah.
that goal. Um,
Yeah.
and there's definitely no end in sight, right? Like I know someone here, not necessarily locally, but not too far from here, and he's retired already, so I think he's pushing like close to 70. And that man rides like he puts 30 miles like on a single ride, right? And
Yeah.
he's out there, and it's like, yeah, that's the goal. Like
Yeah,
retirement is, yeah,
there's a dude that we ride with every once in a while, and he's like 70. And this guy's like, he's a machine, man.
yeah.
Like like it, he like recently like took a plane and goes to like Europe, and he's like just fucking pedaling around Europe for like a month, you know, or 2 months or 3 months, and you're just like, what the hell? Like flew to Canada and is like, yeah, I'll just ride home from there, you know. It's like, what the fuck, man? You're serious? You know, it's just like, yeah, I got tired of riding, so I just headed home. You know, it's like, oh, you're
But
only
see,
like 2,000 miles away, but you're like, all right, you know, but like right on, you know, and that's definitely that gives you hope, you know, that you're like, okay, I can do this for a long
yeah,
time, you know?
and it's like have the fitness and then have the means, right? Like
Yeah.
to do those type of things. So yeah, that's like I've not been to Whistler, but that's definitely a destination that I got a lot of different places that I
I
still need
think
to go
people
to.
that keep moving, like that's what keeps you alive. Like it seems like people that like retire and just like sit around too much, like those are the ones that die like quickly. You know, it's like the guy that's like 95 and still trying to like shingle his roof and shit. You know, that
Yeah.
guy's like, you're like, dude, that guy's not gonna stop, man. You know.
No, yeah. It's I think I can go back. It was, I think it was 2012. I read, no, it was 2010. I read this one book. And that book completely like changed my trajectory, I'm gonna say, in life. And I don't remember the title. 1,000 miles in a million years, or a million mile, yeah, 1,000 miles in a million years. Anyways, the premise of the book is basically this: if your life were to be made into a movie right now, would that be a movie that people would watch from start to finish, or would they walk away like, after 5 minutes of the movie starting? If
Hmm.
it's not one that people would watch from start to finish, then that means you're not living your best life, right? So live
Hmm.
your life as though it would one day become a movie. Um, and then it goes into like a whole lot of different stories and stuff like that. But like
Hmm.
that one, like really changed it for me. And so that's why, like after that, I ran a half marathon, then I ran a full marathon, then I did the Tough Mudder, and then I came back to this area here, Southern California, and I ran the LA Marathon, and then I picked up mountain biking. And it's kind of like what continues to keep me going, I guess, is,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, if, I don't know, not that it's ever going to become a movie or anything, but
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Just,
Yeah.
I guess having that mindset kind of
Yeah.
helps to keep life interesting.
I always like I think the way that I think about my life is that I'm fully aware that I could die at any moment. And like I would want that no matter when that moment is, like of course there will be like, man, I wish I could have done that, or I wish I could have seen that, or I wish I could have seen my daughter get married, or or whatever, my
Right,
son had
right,
his first kid. But like if I died tomorrow, would I be happy with what I did?
right.
And that's kind of like the way I just look at it. It's like, yeah, right now I am, and so like I just
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of keep doing that, where it's like, would I be happy with it? It's like sometimes you get in a spot where you're like, you know, trying to be all like financially responsible or whatever. And sometimes you just have to look at it and be like, no, you know what? Yeah, this is going to go on a credit card and it's going to take a while to pay off. But you know what? I need to live my life today.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like, we're
yeah,
going to go on that trip, or we're going to go buy that bike that's going to do all those things. And it's like, that's worth it. So,
yeah, yeah.
um,
Those moments, those memories are definitely worth it.
yeah. So I know on your channel, and you mentioned it a little bit ago, that you bought an e-bike. Is that because you're 50 now, old man?
You know, it's yeah. So it's funny because when I first started noticing e-bikes, at least here in the area, right? I don't know, like 2019, 2018, whatever the year it was. I was always of the mindset, at least at that time, I was like, yeah, unless you have like a medical condition, like something, right? Like
Mhm.
that's why, you would want one. You should just be riding a normal bike. That was my
Right,
thinking.
right.
And then, like, yeah, over the years, I'm like, wow, shoot, these things are becoming popular. And like people
Mhm,
are really having a lot of fun on, and putting a lot more miles and so on. So, I just made a video about this as well. Like the 3 reasons why I finally bought an e-bike. But really, and like I say in that video, it's like I've been wanting one. I just haven't been like financially able to not just get an e-bike, but get the one that I wanted.
right.
So there's been a lot of great deals out there with e-bikes, especially like this year, last year, right? Like with the
Yeah,
bike industry where it's at. Like there's
yeah.
crazy deals. But I'm like, no, like I want this one. And so it's the Heckler SL. Like I
Mhm,
wanted one. Um, and this is even before it came out. Like I wanted an e-bike that wasn't like a full fat e-bike necessarily, because I wanted it to still feel somewhat normal. Um,
mhm.
and I had written a decoy, and I liked the decoy, but at the time I'm like, nah, I can't quite like get myself to sell my regular bike to have an e-bike. But yeah, so the time came, and I had set a goal to by 50. I'm like, that would make a cool present. and it wasn't looking, like good for me, I guess, as I was approaching like October. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, this ain't gonna happen. And then the SL, the Heckler SL, released, I think, like August or September last year, and I'm that's the bike, that's the
Mhm.
one. And then moved some things around, and things just lined up really well, and I ended
Mm.
up getting my e-bike, and but I'm not getting rid of my regular bike. Like
Yeah.
that's still, I haven't gotten to that point where I can only be on an e-bike.
Yeah, I am I'm getting an e-bike here soon, and I'm really curious to see what happens because I in my mind, like, I really enjoy the struggle of the climbs, as
Hmm.
much as I like bitch about climbing in my videos, like you would think that I'd be a guy that would be like all into like e-bikes, but realistically I just like bitching.
Yeah,
But like I enjoy the pleasure that you get out of like the sense of accomplishment when you get to the top, and you're like, I did that on
right.
my own. And I see the value in the e-bike in like the days of like, instead of having a shuttle truck, or in the days where like, oh, your legs are like blown out from some big ass ride, but you can still go do like laps somewhere and have fun, and so I'm really curious to see what happens whenever I start riding it,
Yeah.
like,
What are you getting? Do you already have like a
yeah, well,
particular
I'm
bike
riding
in
with
mind?
Fazari this year, so they're sending me their
Ah,
their uh
the
their
tent,
e-bike. So yeah, the Temp Peak.
the
So
tent
which is
peak.
basically, I
Yeah,
have their LaSalle, which is their 170 bike. So basically the Temp is the same bike but with a motor on it.
gotcha.
So
Yeah, that was top of the list for me as well.
yeah.
That's a good, it's a good looking bike, and I think it's priced right as well.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think the thing that I really like about Fazari is that you can really build your bike out the way that you want with them, and like obviously like I'm getting sponsored by them, but like going to the site and being able to choose different components and stuff like that, like, to me, I think there's a lot of value in that, because
yeah,
I'm at a point, and I'm assuming you are probably similar. Like, when I buy a bike, like, I want this particular dropper, I want this particular handlebars, and it's like, so you buy like that Heckler SL, and then it's like, okay, well, now I'm buying new brakes, and I'm buying another dropper,
yeah,
and I'm buying a different set of handlebars, and it's like, well, what the hell did I buy that bike all put together for? It's like, now I got all this other shit I got to sell, you know. So it's
yeah.
nice to
No,
be,
yeah, it's at least when when I'm looking at buying one, I look at the build, right? Like what components does it come with, and then there are some that the entry level build, like in this case, like the Heckler SL, the entry level build allowed me to sell the fork, the stock fork for at least 250, right? And then buy like the Fox 36 that I wanted.
mhm.
And I only end up like netting like 50% off, or like I only
Yeah,
pay like
yeah,
half of what would have cost me. But then there are some others that where the entry level build is like so low spec that even if you wanted to sell it, I there's not going to be a whole lot of people wanting to buy
yeah,
that type of fork or shock, what have you. But yeah, no, I that was the first thing. It's like when I got my Heckler SL, I swapped out the fork, the shock. I think those are really the only two things. The brakes, surprisingly, ended up being like really good entry level brakes, which it's good. But yeah, no, I definitely swap out parts as soon as I
yeah.
get it.
I'm super opinionated on everything I ride now. I bought the TRPs on this LaSalle that I built. I tried a few new things,
Nice.
and the TRPs was one of them. And man, everybody's loves these brakes except for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm so used to the bite of the Shimano. I ride Saints on
Okay.
my other bikes and stuff like that, and yeah, I just honestly, I'm like, yeah, going back to the Saints. Like, I tried these different pads that guy that asked the question about the you being a Marine, he told me about those MTX pads, the red ones, and they were definitely way better than the stock um uh pads that came in the TRPs, but then they still just weren't quite bitey enough. Like,
Yeah,
I think whenever I had TRP on the podcast, they said that their brakes kind of fell in between SRAM and Shimano, and as far as
yeah,
like how they were, and I think they're 100% accurate on it. And it's just like, for me personally, I just really enjoy that little extra bit of bite where I just like that, like, I guess it's just the muscle memory what I'm used to, you know. And
yeah,
I thought
yeah,
I thought I would get used to them, but the problem is that I have Saints on my other bike. So whenever I get on my other bike, I'm like, oh God, that's right. I love these
yeah.
brakes. You know,
That's what
like
good feels like. Yeah,
yeah, if I didn't have that other bike, maybe I would be like, no, these are fine. You know, I would
yeah,
have forgotten, but it's like it's definitely it's right there. So it is what
yeah.
it is.
No,
I mean, I'm not saying they're bad. They're just bad for me. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah. And that's the thing, right? I think, and again, I know there's a lot of writers out there with a ton of years of experience, and at least where I'm at now, it's like I'm I know what I like.
yeah,
And it doesn't necessarily, like before, it's like, again, I think it's just, I don't want to say the immaturity like part of it, like, but you're like, oh, the shinier the better, the more
yeah.
expensive the better. Um, like I used to be there. I'm not necessarily there now. Like for like the bike, right? Like my Norco that I have here. The reason why I bought that bike, it's the geometry. Obviously, I really like the geometry, but I'm like, dang, $3,100. Even though it's aluminum, but the spec on it is like the bang for the buck is like so good.
Hmm.
And so I thought, yeah, I remember I had a Bronson, yeah, and it was, factory Fox and what have you on that Bronson. And I thought, like, man, I'm gonna sell the Bronson. Like, so I sold my
Hmm.
Bronson, and I got more money from it than what I spent on this one, brand new.
Hmm.
And it's like I wanted to prove to me that, the most expensive bike isn't necessarily what makes, a better rider.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I need to prove that to myself. So I wrote it stock, and it's like, heck yeah, I like this. So even after I swapped out the fork, it came with the Marzocchi Z2, and then I went to a 36. Now it's on a Lyric. But after I swapped out some parts, and it was really just a suspension. And I thought, like, shoot, and I put some carbon wheels on it. I'm still like at $4,000, and I say still, but it's like carbon wheels, the Lyric Ultimate, and then a coil in the back. Like it's a lot of bike. It's just a lot of bang for the buck. Um,
Hmm.
and so that one gave me a video idea. So I made a video about that, and I actually ended up to like do really well as well.
Right
Uh,
on.
but yeah, so that's one of the reasons. I guess my point to that is I just threw some brakes on here since we were on the topic of brakes. And I was gonna go because I personally like TRP because they are, like, for me, they are in between Shimano
Hmm.
and SRAM. Um, and then my Heckler SL comes with the SRAM DB8s, which, like, one of the first things I thought is like, that's what's going first. Like, I'm swapping those out. I don't know what
Hmm.
they are, but they're gone. And surprisingly, like, those things are really good, like
Yeah.
really, really good. So
I
then I
got some
got on pin.
DHR Evos I'll sell you though, man. They're even better.
So check this out. So I get on Pink Bike, right? Buy, sell Pink Bike, and those DB8s, like, people are doing exactly what I wanted to do. They're taking them off, and they're selling them for $100, like the set of brakes.
Oh
I'm
wow.
like, so I bought me a set, takeoffs, $100, 150 with the rotors, and so that's what I threw on here. And it's kind of like the story continues for me, right? It's like, yes, like, the TRPs are awesome, and Shimano, like, and even now, like, SRAM, right, came out with the Maven. I forget. They
Yeah, the
just
new one.
released, like, right.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm guessing they're really cool, and they do what they say they do. But, like, man, like, $100, and they work
Yeah.
really well. So still continuing with that theme, that this is like the I don't know, the cheap bike that can do everything type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think you'll adjust to whatever you're riding.
Yeah,
Like whenever I had a bike with shitty brakes, I thought they were good. You know, and You just get used to it. So it's like you're like, oh, that's I have to pull the brakes at this point of the hill instead of that point of the hill. You know what I mean? So um but yeah, I mean at the end of the day, I don't feel like um I've had, I have pretty top of the line builds, but I don't have more fun on the bikes that I'm having now than the cheap freaking Cannondale that I had that was super old with old suspension, and you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
still
yeah.
had the same amount of fun. Like I went out and rode bikes and laughed and had a good time, drank beers with my buddies, like that was like that hasn't changed. I think if anything, and the only thing that's really changed is how much I spend on all this shit.
Right. Yeah,
So
no, some things are like, at least for me, some things are really are worth it. Like suspension, right? Like
yeah,
at least for me, suspension is like you gotta, or I have to have, the right suspension. I don't dial it in and spend too much time with all the knobs and adjustments, what have you, but I do know what I like. And so when I don't have it, I can tell the difference. And it's
yeah.
just like, yeah, no, I need to
Yeah, I
upgrade
see you
here.
got a coil on that bike behind you, and that for me was one of those game changers with suspension where I was like, "Oh my god!" For years, people were telling me, "Dude, you should get a coil. You would really like it. The way you ride, or the things that you like to ride, blah blah blah." And I'd be like, "Yeah, whatever. That's way too expensive." And then finally, I got one. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, dude! I wish I would have done this so long ago."
Yeah, yeah.
You running a
Suspension
coil on your
definitely.
e-bike too, or
No, so it's the I tried running a coil on the e-bike, but Santa Cruz and their like suspension platform, I guess it's already like very plush.
mm-hmm.
It's like a magic carpet right on that thing. I use this analogy with Santa Cruz and their bikes and their suspension. It's like getting a pillow fight with rock
Mm-hmm.
gardens. Like it's
Yeah,
just it's so smooth, right? And so I threw a coil on, and what I found was it was smooth, but it didn't give me like the pop that I wanted. So it just
mm-hmm.
made it a little bit too soft. So I went back
Yeah.
to air on the e-bike.
Oh, for some reason I lost your audio. I
Um,
wonder if your headphones died or something like that. So I'm not hearing you anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and just ramble for a little bit while while you figure it out. Um anyways, so let's see here. Can I talk about my suspension platform? So I think I had the coil on my Bronson, and for me, maybe it was just the brand of the coil that you chose, because for me, when I put a coil on my Bronson, I felt like it really still had it like stuck to the ground very well. And that was one of the things that when I was going through some like chattery, like kind of brake bumpy berms or something like that, I just remember feeling so much more planted, and that to me is what really pushed me over to full on like, oh my god, I see the value. You got your audio yet? Not yet. So anyways, let's see here. It looks like he's got his mic not connected yet. So anyways, um what else we got going on here? I think the other thing, well, I guess I can talk about that. So he was saying that he's real particular about a suspension for his bikes, and I think it's like if I really had to choose what I'm most particular about, it would be my suspension and my brakes. Those are probably the two biggest ones. And then a real tight third place is the wheel set. Um, because man, if you have a shitty engagement hub, and this is me personally, I think because I'm a bigger guy, I really like having carbon wheels. So that's big for me. So um yeah, and it's funny because uh can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, you can hear me. Okay. So it seems like maybe if you click on the settings for the actual StreamYard there, it's like the little ellipsis that's next to you. You can do to edit your settings, but it looks like on my end, it looks like you don't have a mic right now. So maybe whenever you turn on that headset again. I think maybe your batteries died on your Apple ones or something like that. Yeah, getting the head nod there. So um I would imagine if you're on a computer, you should be able to just turn on the mic on that, or if you have a laptop or something, or the mic might be on the webcam or something. But anyways, so what was I gonna say here? So yeah, those things to me is where I really kind of lock into is definitely the breaks are a big deal to me, because it's like, man, now that I'm so used to having good breaks, it's like definitely it looks like are you hearing it on your AirPods again? Oh, I
I'm
heard
back.
something. There he is. There he is. What happened
Sorry
there? The
about.
batteries just died?
Yeah,
But you just
yeah.
stuck them in there for a minute? That's like enough time for them to come
I,
back
I don't
eventually.
even know. Like it just I thought the batteries had died, and so that I was messing with it. But then I looked at there was still some charge left,
Hmm.
so then I just had to reconnect.
Yeah. Well, there you go. We'll blame it on Apple. It's all Apple's fault.
Yeah,
So
let's 100%.
anyway, so you talked about buying some carbon wheels and you're wearing a SpokeX shirt. Is that with the wheel set that you're running?
No, I'm not. I'm actually running Industry 9, but it, SpokeX, since you bring it up, yeah, I still have their shirt. I think it was about 3 years ago. We did work together with
Hmm.
SpokeX, and it was really cool. And then I think after a year, it came up, and we're like talking. Do we continue? The partnership type of thing. Um, and at that time, I had just gotten like a new position at work, and I knew things were going to get crazy, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to deliver,
Hmm.
at least my part in that partnership. So
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, I think it's better if we, take a break from this, because I didn't want to necessarily take advantage of, the kindness and everything else, and then me not
Yeah.
provide that. But yeah, no, with SpokeX, which was really cool. Probably one of the best things that I've done within like mountain biking. We did a 4-day mountain bike road trip. So we left on a Thursday morning, like at 3 a.m., and we landed or arrived at Mammoth, like at 9 or 10 a.m. And we rode all day that day at Mammoth. At night, when they closed, we got in the car and we drove to North Star, right? So we got over to North Star, spent the night, rode all day like Friday, and then spent the night, and then we hit like a little local park that they have in Truckee, I think. Anyways, it
Bike
was
park there.
after, yeah, like after hours, right?
Hmm.
So we spent the night, and then Saturday we rode again for a second day at North Star, which that place is amazing.
Yeah.
And I think it takes more than a handful of days to ride all those trails. So anyway, so then from there, like on Saturday, after we were done on the second day riding at North Star, when it closed, we drove all the way to Santa Cruz, spent the night in Santa Cruz, woke up Sunday morning and rode Santa Cruz. And it was like, and then we rode up until our guide went over the bars and broke his
Oh no.
collarbone.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
that's when it's like, okay, road trip's done.
Right.
Let's start driving back.
Oh,
It was
that's
so
funny.
crazy.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
that was
think I remember when Hunter was up here on that trip, because I was going to go up to North Star and meet up with them, and it just didn't work out for whatever reason. But yeah, that's funny. We could have bumped into each other. You going to
yeah.
Sedona?
I don't know. I'm not planning on it. I don't have no plans to go. It's not gonna work out. But
Yeah.
um, are you going? Sounds like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
going.
I'm planning on going. Originally I wasn't going to, but then I wanted to. I have a long history of riding a large bike, even though every manufacturer thinks I should be on an extra large.
Yeah.
And so I've been riding an extra large Fazari, and before they send me the bike for next year, I want to really make sure that I wouldn't be happier on a large. So they're going to be in Sedona. So I decided to go
Okay.
down so that I could ride the large and the extra large next to each other and be like, really make up my mind, because the
Yeah.
cockpit on their bike's a little different. I was riding all Santa Cruz bikes before, and
Gotcha.
it definitely like when I got this LaSalle, it definitely felt way longer, but it is also like even numbers wise a way longer bike. So then
Gotcha.
I was riding Bronson before, so um I'm curious to really see how I feel on the large because it's one of those things where I just like the way it feels a little better usually when the smaller frame bikes, and I think it comes from the background in
Yeah.
BMX, being younger,
Yeah.
and um but at this point I've been riding this extra large long enough that I mean
It
it's
feels
definitely
good.
not like I feel like I'm not upset about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I'm really curious. I'm really honestly like it's gonna be I'm going into it like completely open-minded at this point. Like it's not like if it would have been like a couple months ago, like I would have been like, yeah, I'm gonna like the large. Like I would have went
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
it like
Yeah.
already and I was going to. But at this point, it's like, okay, we'll just go ride the bike and see what feels better,
Yeah.
and it'll be yeah. So I'm really curious to see how that goes. Plus, Sedona is just such a good time. Have you been there before?
I haven't, but I thought I saw something the other day that do they allow e-bikes? I mean, I'm sure there's like
No, they're like
they don't,
super.
right?
Yeah, they're super against e-bikes down there. So
Yeah, that's what I remember seeing something on social media about like
yeah,
Sedona doesn't allow e-bikes.
yeah, we'll see how long that lasts, but who
Yeah.
knows? Yeah, it's like the new freaking thing for people to get triggered about. I don't understand. I personally don't understand it, but um, whatever. Oh, I wanted to say though too. We were talking about the Spoke X wheels. I've been riding those wheels. I'm really stoked on them, man. Like they're solid. Like I've broken
Yeah.
pretty much every wheel set that I've had in my like all the carbon wheels that I've had, pretty much I've broken except for these. And I didn't break my stands when I had a set of stands. So I don't know if that's like science or anything. like, like I sure as
Yeah.
shit like I'm not riding any like I'm smashing the fuck out of these things and they're solid.
Yeah, no, they I remember I don't necessarily know everything that went into it and what Hunter worked out there in terms of like, how strong they are, but I do know that he put a lot of effort into making sure that whatever he brought to market was going to be, was going to be good. So I rode him for a while as well, and yeah, I didn't damage him in any way necessarily.
Yeah.
So yeah, they yeah, good. Yeah, Hunter's good people, and he knows what he's doing and puts a lot of effort, I guess, into whatever he's
Yeah.
gonna do. It's gonna be done well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What are you looking forward to on the channel this year?
I think more adventures, right? So I'm finding that I do a lot of my content is localized. So it's just my local trails. So I definitely need to get out and do more that's in different places. So like Sedona, right? Even though I don't have this, I can't make it, so I'm not gonna be able to go there. But I do want to somehow, some way. I don't know how I'm gonna work this out, but I do want to end up in Bentonville and riding there. That's
Yeah, I'd like
that's
to do that
definitely
too.
yeah, I need to get there. I want to go back to North Star later on this year when bike park season comes around. So I definitely want to go back.
What is it
Um,
that you liked about Night North Star? Is it like the jumping stuff or the like just the tech
no, I,
or
I think the tech. So it was how do I say it? To me, North Star is like green trails are like, or their blue trails are like our black trails, like here,
Mhm,
right? So their blue trails are super fun, and they have a lot of tech, and there's just a lot of different trails to ride. So you can go on like all day and say like I'm gonna be on this side of the mountain. Like that's what we did. We were on one side of the mountain one day, and then the next day we're like, let's go over here. And then we did a gypsy, I think it's called. And that
mhm,
like gypsy was just like the rock formations, like it's like art. Some of the
mhm.
the trails that they have there. And then obviously like the jumps are super fun, but yeah, no, I don't know. I think it's just the techiness, everything, that their trails are just well made.
Yeah, if you make it up here, let me know. That's definitely there's some other good stuff though, man. That's like you could go to Downeyville, that's pretty close. Mills Peak's pretty close. Those are some pretty epic rides, man. Where like if you're up here, I wouldn't spend all your time at the bike park. That's my
I got
recommendation.
you. I got you.
So,
Yeah, no, and that's the I guess that's the plan, right? It's like I need to be more intentional about planning out like certain trips. Like I'm gonna go on this date, I'm gonna go here, and just explore more. Because yeah, I've noticed that yeah, most of my content is it's pretty localized. So
yeah, it's easy
that's
to
what I
fall
look
into
for.
that, I try to go places, but it's like I what I've found is like the more places that I've gone now, it's like whenever because some of that stuff's only available in the summertime. So then it's like now I'm trying to like do all of those things every year, and it's like I don't have the time to do that.
Yeah.
It's like getting to be impossible. So it's I have to give up some of those places to go to some other ones, or something like that. And so yeah, we'll see how it goes. I definitely like at this point though, it's a little easier. I am an empty nester, so um
Mm.
it's definitely a lot easier to like do a lot of those rides that before it would be like I mean, I just wasn't riding as many days,
Yeah.
so where now it's like I'm riding maybe 5 days a week or and so it's
Oh,
like
okay.
it's real like, oh yeah, I went there, I went there, I went there, and then that kind of stuff. So but I mean some of those are like farther away kind of rides. So those are like only on the weekends, right? So it's like you gotta really kind of figure it
Yeah.
out. But
I I remember like talking about like going places and writing in different places. Back in 2018, again, my channel wasn't, it was just really small. It's just starting it up. Um, but I wanted to write Santa Cruz. Like I
mhm,
wanted to, but I didn't know anybody in Santa Cruz, right? Like I,
yeah.
I wasn't yet part of like a big community type of thing. So, um, and so I remember I went to, I forgot what forum I found, and I linked up with Steve, who lives in Santa Cruz. I don't know if you know Steve Wells. Um,
Mhm.
well, anyways, we linked up, and I'm like, hey man, like I'm gonna be up there on this weekend. I don't know, cause you like draw me a map, like I don't know, show me around, like help me out. And yeah, like super helpful, right? He was gonna be there and like show me UC Santa Cruz,
Mhm. The
and
good
so on.
stuff.
So
Yeah.
yeah, well, anyways, long story short, my that day we were leaving, that morning we were leaving to Santa Cruz, my daughter had like her appendix burst. So
Oh
like
no.
yeah, so the trip was like no more, right? But fast forward now, like this was 2018. Fast forward to what was it like when I went with Hunter and SpokeX on this 4 day trip? Like that was Steve who like helped us and toured us, shuttled us actually in Santa
Oh,
Cruz.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that was, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, 4 years later, I don't know, I just thought it was really cool to have finally met the person who, like, 4 years earlier was gonna do all of that for me,
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
though we
yeah.
never really like interacted. So
And then he busts his freaking
yeah.
clavicle.
Well, so then the other one is Jay. You probably know Jay, maybe Bike Some. I think he
Yeah,
that's
Jay Wood. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So same thing. I'm like, and this was 2020 COVID. Like, dude, I want to go ride Santa Cruz. And he's like, I don't know how we connected. I think I was watching some of his videos. Yeah, and I drove up there. We linked up, and yeah, we like Flow Trail and Braille. And
Mhm.
I think those are the only two. But I was spent. Like that was a lot of
Yeah.
climbing. Like
That's a
once you
big
go down
day.
Flow,
Yeah, when you do
yeah,
those both, it's like over 3,000 feet of
it
climbing.
was.
So,
Yeah, it was,
yeah,
and not on an e-bike, right?
yeah.
So I was spent. But I guess what I'm trying to say with all of that is like I love that. Like just not knowing like how the person necessarily is, and just like connecting and getting to know each other and like writing, and I don't know, it's just the whole adventure I think is kind of like what's really cool. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to doing more of that this year.
Yeah, yeah. You should definitely travel, man. I I will say that's the one thing that my YouTube channel really like. It's the gift that it gave me that I didn't realize it was going to give me was like before I started my channel, I really rode like let's just say like 3 places like over and over and over and over
Yeah,
again. And then it would be like maybe once or twice during the summer I would go to Tahoe, or
yeah,
something like that, and it would be like that would be it. And other than that, it was like the same like 3 local places all the time. And when I started doing the channel, it was like, oh, I want to go like film this other trail and film this other place. And then I really got it like a hunger for it where it was
yeah,
like, um, well, this is really fun. It's really fun going somewhere where you don't know the trail, and it's like fun to explore and fun to learn it. And then it's like, oh, now you're like really looking forward to going back there again, And like I went down there to SoCal so last year, I think, and I went over to that um, Sky Park
yeah,
for an
yeah,
event that the segment did. And man, I
okay,
had so much fun there. It was like, oh God, dude, I don't know why I don't drive down to LA and ride you guys' stuff. Like, I feel like it's just far enough away that I'm like, oh, it's too far.
yeah,
But it's like just close enough where I'm like, oh, I can do that anytime.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's like I just need to I really need to like lock into coming down there for like 4 days or something like that this summer and really riding the stuff down there. So hopefully
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah, there's and I would say the same thing, right? Don't spend all your time at a bike park. Like we
yeah,
got
I'm not
some
a
really
bike
good
park
stuff.
guy. Honestly, I really don't even like North Star. I go like once a year and I usually bitch about it about half the day, and then usually by the end of the day I'm like, "Oh, this is kind of fun, but I'm not coming back till next
Yeah.
year." I
I hear
I
you.
think for me, like, it's super fun. Don't get me wrong. And I understand why people love park, but for me, I really like that adventure of like being out and like doing some like big ride or something. Like I just really like that feeling of like the whole experience and not the
Yeah.
like sitting on a lift part, like
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear you. I think, I don't know if you've done, have you written the whole enchilada?
no, I haven't. That's definitely on my bucket list. You've done
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So the whole enchilada, that was amazing. That's definitely, the one that I need to do over again. Yeah, that and then actually when we got there, we rode Captain Ahab.
Uh-huh.
And that was like techie climbs, and you don't know where the line is, right? You're just riding over rocks. And then like you look to the left or to the right and you'll see like little dots of like blue paint, and it's like, okay, that's where the line is, the trail is, right? So
Yeah.
um but yeah, and then the next day we did the whole enchilada, and that 20 whatever, however many miles, and we did the whole thing. So fortunately, we got good weather to where we can ride the whole thing. But then there's Kernville. Kernville is another one that hopefully I'm able to do again. I think that's 20 the plunge, I think is what it's called, like towards the end. So it's like 25 miles, I want to say. And if I remember correctly, it's only like 1 mile of climbing, and then the rest is just, but
Oh
you go
wow.
through like, yeah, like the terrain, you go through so much terrain, like just different views, different trees, different plant, like different everything. But yeah, so I get exactly what you're saying in terms of, that's more epic, I guess, than
Yeah.
back and doing laps at a park.
Yeah.
Um,
But I can see how when you're doing the laps, like how fast you can level up.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, so I get that. And like, that's the only part where the last time I was there, I was like, maybe I should go a little bit more just because like you get so much repetition in that you're like, um, you can definitely see how it like advances your skill set.
yeah,
So
yeah. No, it's yeah, both like big long epic rides and parks, I guess, have their good things and their bad things. But yeah, no,
so where else do you
I
want to travel to? So you said it's possibly coming up here to Northern California. Where else?
yeah. So um, Whistler, I definitely want to go to Whistler, right? I don't know that I'll make it this year, um, but Whistler is definitely a place where I need, and I say I need to go because I really like I
Yeah.
that's before my time's up. Like Whistler,
Yeah.
I need to hit Whistler. But my brother lives out in North Carolina, so I like to go out that way as well and explore some of those trails, like I think Canuga Park, I think it's
Yeah.
called.
Yeah. That place
You
looks
know,
cool.
Yeah, so I like to, ride there as well. So I think mainly within the US and all those, different places, I need to take
Yeah.
advantage that it's not gonna be, a long plane,
Yeah.
whatever.
Buy the bike bag, man. Honestly, buy the bag. The first time you do it, it's a little awkward. You're like kind of feeling it out, trying to figure it out. And then after you do it once, you're like, dude, I can do this like all the time.
Yeah,
Like I went home to Pennsylvania last year for a funeral and took my bike so I could go ride while I was there. It was like we went
yeah.
to Jamaica for a vacation and it was like took my bike, did a ride there. We went to a wedding in Hawaii, took my bike, did a ride there. Like so yeah, it's
Yeah,
fun. And once you like I say, once you've gone on one trip with it, you're like, oh, it's just like any other piece of luggage, man. It's just like
yeah,
gotta just make sure you get a car big enough to stick that freaking bag in, and other than that, you're good. You know?
yeah. So hopefully it all works out and do more traveling this year for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Right on, man. Do you have any goals for the channel as far as like subscriber count or anything like that, or just like make good stuff?
Yeah, I think I just like I need to get a better gear, right? So like I'm looking at you right now and like everything behind you. Like
Uh-huh.
that's goals right there, right? Like I need to get to your level and set this room up like that.
Yeah,
Because I'm not I think that if I dedicate more time and obviously resources to that, I think it'll
yeah,
help, right? Um,
yeah,
but at times I'm like, I still want to ride, so let me just ride and make whatever footage work.
yeah,
But no, definitely, I think so. Apart from traveling, like I need to like definitely up my game on better gear, better setup, and then just provide like better quality
mhm,
in terms of the gear that I'm using to shoot the videos and how I'm
mhm.
editing and what have you. But yeah, that
What
that's
what are you
that's
using? Just
definitely
GoPro and that's it, or
that's it. Like I'm
yeah,
using GoPro and my iPhone, right?
yeah,
And then I'm struggling, when I'm like trying to get the color corrected and get it right and the right
yeah.
exposure, what have you. It's like, dang it, I need to do better because I just don't like I don't know. I don't like carrying too much stuff when I'm writing.
I feel
Um,
like, I mean, honestly, for the most part, that's all I use is a GoPro, and sometimes I'll use my iPhone, but usually it's just the GoPro as far as that. And like, if I'm recording in like in the garage stuff, I have a nice camera for that. But
yeah,
I could honestly like, I don't know if it's necessarily like going to be game changing. I think one of the things that really changed it for me though, as far as my content creation went, was getting a drone. I really
oh, okay.
like having those drone shots of the places that I ride, or like just having that to be able to tell my story with
Yeah,
better,
yeah,
is like I really, really like those with that adds,
yeah,
and usually you don't care like unless I'm going on some big like ride where I know that like there's going to be some like awesome view at the top or something like that. Like maybe I'll carry it, but for the most part, I usually don't. I'll film something like wherever we park, or
yeah,
something like that, and usually that's about it. But I just really like what it adds to. Like I
yeah,
felt like that
yeah.
was very worth it. So that would be my recommendation.
I got you. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no, yeah, definitely like better gear, more gear.
yeah,
And then again, right, like know that I'm gonna like balance the writing, but then also set some time like, to just making sure that I get the right footage, and
yeah,
just think it through rather than like an afterthought. Okay, how do I make this work?
yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah, some guys do a lot of like they'll like storyboard their stuff before they get started, but some guys they just make it work after. I'm pretty sure when I talked to BCPOV, I asked him like, "Do you like think your story out?" And he was like, "I just figured it out after what happened."
Yeah, yeah,
So it's like I think
yeah,
it's really like whatever works for you, man. Do that. You know, I've tried to do like be super intentional on a video before, and I feel like I end up overcomplicating it to myself, and then
yeah.
then it becomes less fun to me, and then I don't want to do it as much. You know,
Do that.
so it is definitely a balance though, because sometimes you come back to go edit, and you're like man, that would have been nice if somebody I would
Yeah,
have like just asked my buddy to hold the camera while I climbed up that rock, or like, why didn't I ask somebody else? Why didn't I just sit the camera down when we were doing that rock roll? Like,
Right.
you know, and so like, it's things like that where I'm like, okay, try to be a little more cognizant of, but for the most part, I think like, if you get too into the making the video, then you actually don't capture the fun that you're actually having
Yeah.
writing. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
think it's like a give and take. You know, you got to
Yeah.
kind of decide what you want to do. So, man, we're coming up on 2 hours right now, dude. It's been an easy
That's crazy.
conversation, man. Good times chatting.
Yeah, I didn't even realize. I'm looking at, yeah, definitely coming up on 2 hours. That is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. It goes by quick, man. It's like I always say, it's easy to talk about things you enjoy. So I always like to
Definitely.
ask people at the end, like, what kind of YouTube channels you like to watch, whether it's mountain biking or not. What do you like to watch on YouTube?
Oh my goodness, it's crazy you asked that. I am so hooked right now on the Y files.
Oh yeah. What's going on there?
Now there this how do I say it? They're not, it's like a modern day the Twilight Zone type of like
Uh-huh.
content. So like, the guy just starts talking about, say for example, today I watched the moon landing, and he starts off like, this is why, people believe that, we faked the moon landing, and he goes through everything, and you're like, this is fake, this is fake, this is fake. And then he gets to the other side, but here's the other side, da, da, da. You're like, no, wait, I thought you said it was fake. And then he just kind of like, he presents both sides of the story, and then
Uh-huh.
leaves it up to you to decide. So
Ah.
everything is, it's like, it's that, there's like time travel and the multiverse and science and this, but they're all based on like actual events, and then
Uh-huh.
stories that develop from that. So that one's got me like,
It's called the
it's
Y Files.
the Y file, like WHY, the Y files. And then
I'll
he's
have to
got like
check
a
it out.
little,
That sounds fun.
yeah, and he's got like a little goldfish to the side that like talks every now and then. Like it keeps it super entertaining.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So, but then apart from that, I don't think I miss like a video from Seth.
Hmm.
Everything he puts out, it's like it's quality. And then for the most part, I just like whatever it feeds me. It's like, okay, let me scroll, let me scroll, let me scroll.
Yeah.
Yeah, this right here. But I try not to spend too much time. Yeah, I try not to. You can go down a rabbit hole. Like you watch one, and the next one, and the next one. So I try not to
Yeah.
spend too much time on that. But yeah, no, I'm definitely into the Y files right now. You got
Yeah.
it. You got to check that out.
Yeah. Definitely sounds fun. It reminds me of this guy. I wish I could remember the name of his channel right now, but there's this dude that's like um, oh my God, why am I think for like spacing the name right now? What do you call the people, like an Indiana Jones kind of guy? What's that? Archaeologist. So this
Oh,
guy's
okay,
an
yeah,
archaeologist, right? And what he does is he like explains why like these like, those crazy theories you see on like Ancient Aliens.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
To
yeah.
be like, oh, the Sumerian did this and they drew this, and this means that there was an extra, like an ancient civilization. And then this guy uses like all the shit that he learned, like real science. And he's
Yeah,
like, this is why that's all bullshit, man.
yeah.
Like, and he just
Debunks
like
it.
debunks the shit out of it. And his videos are really long. Like, whenever I've watched them, I'll put them in like 2 times or something like that, or I'll like listen to it while I'm like building Legos or something,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
like, it's really interesting because you're like, oh man, I really believe that shit. And now, like,
yeah,
whenever he says it this way, I'm like, fuck, man. There is
yeah.
no
No,
damn aliens after all.
yeah. It's yeah. There's all kinds of content out there, but yeah, it's I don't know. There's whatever. Like if it feeds me something, and I
Right.
do intentionally look for something outside of mountain. Like obviously I'll watch a lot of mountain
Yeah.
biking content, but I like to see like what are other people making
Yeah.
and how are they doing it, and like what props are they using, or
Yeah.
type of thing, just to kind of see if I can get
It's
like
interesting,
ideas.
man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, like you said, man, sometimes the algorithm will just catch you on a day, man. Next thing you know, you're down a rabbit hole. I spent like 2 hours one night watching this guy that like interviewed like junkies, like homeless junkies, and stuff like that. And he would just like talk to them about like whatever, like how they got there or what their like trials and tribulations are or whatever. And it was like, dude, I watched this shit for like 2 hours. Like, oh my God. Like, this is really what I'm doing with my life. But yeah, there's some interesting shit out there, man. Always a good time. Well, dude, thank you very much for being part of the show, man. I really appreciate you coming to hang out at the biker bar with me. And it was a good time. Hopefully when either I'll make it to SoCal or you'll make it to Northern California, we can put a face to the name, ride some trails together. That'd be super fun. Oh, we lost his audio again.
Yeah.
Oh, he's coming in and out. Perfect timing. So here we go. Anyways, if you guys haven't checked out Milton's channel, go check out Miltonator. There's a link in show more. And there's also, if you're listening on a podcast, you can click that in the show notes down there as well. So go over there, give him a subscribe, and let's see him catch up and pass the biker channel like everybody else does, right? So anyways, if you are listening to this podcast and you listen on the Apple platform and you haven't written me a 5-star review, please do that. I really want to see a new one before next week so I can come back in here and be like, thank you. And I'll read your review as long as it doesn't get me kicked off the internet. I mean, no. And so anyways, I really appreciate everybody. Honestly, if you haven't been tuned into the Backpedal show, it's on both channels. Check that out on Tuesday nights. It is free if you watch it live, but if you want to catch it later, that's a members only thing. So if you want to catch it after the fact, man, $3 a month. It really helps support me and the channel. There's a lot of gear that goes into this stuff, just like Milton was talking about, and stuff ain't cheap. So it's I really appreciate everybody that's on the memberships or on Patreon, whichever way you'd like to go about it. And it means a lot. So thank you to all of you that are there. And if you're considering it, hey man, it's like buying me a beer once a month, man. Not even you can't even buy a beer for $3. I don't even know. Is there a place like maybe some PBR for $2 or something like that? Buy me a PBR on YouTube memberships. Anyways, really appreciate Milton for being on the show. Had a great time today. And if you guys want something for free, just remember, it only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.